3, 2, 1.
So the age-old question, what do I charge for my product or service? The first thing is a thing called viability. Not valuable, not valuability, but viability. What viability means is, do people even want what you're selling, where you are, right? The example would be, if I'm in the desert, I might not want your bubble goose. That's not a viable business idea for those in the desert. If I'm, somewhere it never rains, you might not want to start an umbrella company. Even if you're going to sell them for 2 cents, it's just not a viable business idea. So you first have to make sure that your product or service is in demand where you are, right? Then some of your cost comes from what that demand is, right? So going back to the bubble goose, you probably can sell bubble gooses for a lot more in Alaska than you can sell them in, say, Georgia, right? Somewhere where it gets a little bit cold, but if I don't have a coat, I'm not gonna really, die, right? So the demand for a product, good, or service goes up and down based on its viability, right? How much do people want this in this area based on whatever's going on in this particular area? And obviously I'm using weather, but there's a ton of other things that go for that. Obviously when you're in a city and there's a lot more people, it's more condensed, you can have a myriad of different businesses, you know what I'm saying? Right now, like with Philadelphia, real estate is something that's booming right here, right? So you got a lot of more people getting into that. So that's the first thing you want to think about, viability and then demand for your good or service. Then once you think about viability and demand, then you have to go to the marketplace. And going to the marketplace, you have to see what people who are already doing these things are charging. So when I first got into film, I would get quotes for certain jobs from various different production companies. And when I would do that, some would come back, crazy high. And I'd be like, damn, people getting this. Some would come back low, right? So then it's the next thing you got to go to, which is expertise, right? So what expertise is, as you grow and as you learn, a few different things change, right? You get some people get bigger overhead, they open studios, they have, bigger, better equipment, et cetera, et cetera. Some people don't. Some people are just starting, they're just trying to build their brand, those types of things. And then some people are designer brands, right? So what's a designer brand? That's the same reason why, like, a Fruit of the Loom t-shirt is $3, but a Gucci t-shirt is up to $1,000, right? Because people want it so bad because they've cut themselves out in the marketplace as the best of the best, the cream of the crop. Sometimes they're not really the cream of the crop, it's just their branding. It's just their logo, it's just their longevity or whatever. And people will pay that amount for a designer brand. And anything can be a designer brand. Anything can become a designer brand. Doesn't matter what you do. You can be a cleaning service designer brand. You can be, like we talking about, you could be a videographer. It becomes a designer brand. It's all about, that's why you see people put like celebrity videographer or celebrity hairstylist in front of their name and stuff like that. That's just another way to say, well, I cost this much because, I do Solange hair or somebody, you know what I mean? So those are the steps, right? And then there's a few things that you can throw on top of that, right? So we talked about viability, we talked about demand, we talked about checking out the marketplace and seeing what's the median that people are charging for this, and then we talked about expertise. Once you add in your expertise, that's going to push you away from or below the median, right? So when you poll some folks, you see what people are charging, and you say, well, look at their stuff. They stuff is amazing. I see why they getting, 20 grand to start or whatever, and his stuff is a little shaky. I see why he only want 200 or whatever it might be. But then you place yourself honestly. Where am I? Where do I believe I fall within this expertise level? You know what I'm saying? And then you kind of just pick a number. You really just pick a number based on that. But the thing about when you pick that number is your service, your quality of service, your customer service, and the product that you give people back, whether that's a physical product, whether that's like what we do, something digital with videography, or if that's, you know, a service, something that you're going to perform for somebody. Whatever that number that you pick, your quality of service has to exceed that number, right? Even if it's by $1. If the value of your service, your consumer should look at your service once they receive it, and they should feel like, I would have paid more for this. That's how they should feel. They should constantly feel like, I would have paid more for this. And you'll know, right? You'll be able to tell that, and then you slowly move your price up to that number that they might have paid, right? You continue to move your price up, but you can only continue to move your price up because you're actually worth it. That's where people get messed up a lot of the times. Is like they think they're doing good business, but they're not really doing good business. So if you're not really doing good business, then why should you charge more? Why should you be allowed to charge more than the client feels as though your business was worth, right? You're not allowed to do that. That's where you get into trouble, and people, you know, people will talk bad about your business. They'll give you bad reviews or whatever it might be, simply because you didn't do the thing that you promised them at the price point. And that part is easy. That's one thing that, like, I always prided myself on, and I'm always confused when people don't do. You know what I mean? Selling someone a certain thing and being transparent with them about what that certain thing is, right? If I'm selling forks, right, and I know a fork is supposed to have 4 prongs on it, right? And I know that the median price range for a fork like this is $1. If one of my prongs is missing, that doesn't mean I can't sell that fork. That just means I have to know that people are used to 4 prongs on their fork, and I have to set the expectation that my fork, it still works, but it only has 3 prongs. So now I'm going to set that expectation with my client, and I'm going to say, that's why my forks are only 65 cents, because we have 3 prongs on our forks. They work just the same, but we wanted to cut the cost for you and give you a different product, right?
Because we know you're used to the fork.
We know you're used to the 4 fork. We know you that's what you thought you was getting. Now, if I just sell you a fork at $1 and you open it up and it got 3 prongs, that's bad business on my part, because it's not what you used to, right? And now I got customers on my line, and I'm like, I'm being the bad business person. I'm like, it still worked though. What you mean? Did it pick up your food? That's not the point. The point is, I'm used to it having 4 prongs, sir. You sold me a fork that it was cheaper, yeah, but you never told me it only had 3 prongs. That's on you. You can make a hell of a business. You can make a killing undercutting all of the 4 fork-pronged people if you just be transparent and be like, look, we the 3-pronged fork, right? And people will still pay for your service as long as they know what they're getting, and as long as what they're getting is quality and it still just does the job that they thought they were getting, right? So I know I said a lot, and your direct question was, you know, how do you price? How do you choose what you price? We always gonna get to a point, especially because clients can drive you crazy sometimes, where we feel like we're undervalued, right? We all can get to that point. But you can't just raise your price just for the sake of raising your price. You have to offer new things. You have to step your own game up. You have to look yourself in the mirror and figure out where you struggle, because everybody struggles. There's no business out here that's perfect, but you can make your bads better. And once you start to make your bads better and your clients start to speak that way, that's how you know it's time to raise your price, right? And no price increase should ever be super duper significant. It should be incremental, right? It should be comfortable for your clients. And another thing that I do, I haven't raised my prices in quite some time. I've just learned how to do like creative upsells and things like that. But when I did raise my prices, I raised my prices probably 3 times since I got in the film game. But my hardcore clients that really stuck with me, I sent them, and I always did it around the new year, but I sent them an email or a text like, hey, just letting you know, these types of services you've been used to getting will be increasing by this much, and yada yada. And I had some folks that was like, all right, cool, I respect that. I mean, you've been doing your thing or whatever. And I had some was like, damn, bro, how you taxing everybody, da da da. right? But I'm like, if I've been doing something for 5 years and you've been doing the same thing for 5 years and I've grown, you should have grown too.
So where you can
exactly
come with me in my shift. Yeah.
It's not incumbent upon me to keep my prices low because you haven't grown, right? But it is incumbent upon me to keep my prices low if I haven't grown. And that's the part about a business person where you could be in business for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever you want to do. But if your service is exactly the same thing that you started with, you're not at liberty to raise your prices.
Right.
You're selling me the same exact thing, right? In my case, it was better lenses, better cameras, faster editing time, more expertise. I learned how to do different things in the edits. I learned how to do different things on the shoot. My equipment game stepped up, whether that was lighting or gimbals or you know, sound equipment and all of these different things that I'm able to offer you now. So yes, my price went up. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, it's some businesses, it really depends on what you in. There's a ceiling. Like you're not getting no more for this thing that you do. There might be a ceiling. So I feel like I don't feel like I'm at that ceiling because, you know, the landscaper that does, you know, the house across the street and the landscaper that does Will Smith's house, they both landscapers, but they getting vastly different money, right? So it's not to say that you can't hit a ceiling in your industry and still make money and go above, but that's where you get into, like I said, becoming a designer brand. You know what I'm saying? And that's like the next level that I'm chasing as well. And real quick, I'm gonna wrap this video up because I know it's getting long, but in order to become a designer brand in any game, you have to figure out either speed can make you a designer brand, right? I do this thing that typically takes this long 10 times faster, right? And depending on what that thing is, it could be 1 time faster. People used to getting this in 3 days, I could get it to you in a day, right? That can make you a designer brand, and that can balloon your price because, all right, well, go to them and wait for 3 days then, or you're gonna pay me double, but you'll have it tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? That can make you a designer brand, and also a combination of all of the things that I'm about to mention can make you a designer brand. Niche can make you a designer brand, right? Especially in our business, photo and video. If you can create a look that people just want, right? You can do that same look over and over and over again, and people want that look and they'll pay for it, right? Your clientele may be slim, right? But what you're able to charge is going to be through the roof because people want that look, right? And now, when I say you can create a look, I don't mean like you could just create it and just be like, I shoot all my videos with a red tint, pay me a bunch of money. I'm saying if you create something that's alluring and people is like, damn, like what's that? Who shot that? What? Da, 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 da. You get that type of response. That's like your Gucci, your Prada. You know what I mean? It's still leather. It's still cotton. It's got these G's on it. Everybody want these G's. So the price goes up. The other thing that can make you designer is who you work with. You know what I'm saying? And that's really the way that I'm going. I shoot a myriad of things. But my designer is, I got a lot of celebrities and a lot of athletes that I work with. And that's about to start to become more and more of my focus, getting more and more of those clients. So now, when the people who aren't that want to book me, they got to pay a little bit more, right? Because they've seen who I work with, they've seen the type of clientele that I get, so they have to pay me a little bit more. So some of those things, and then even little stuff like your customer service, right? Like I'd argue Chick-fil-A is a designer brand, right? They not open on Sunday. What other fast food ain't open on Sunday? And they still make the median amount that the people who are open on Sunday make, because people want to go back. They just want to go back. The line's always long at Chick-fil-A, right? So customer service, like I said, above and beyond expertise, you bottle all of those things up and you can become a designer brand and you'll know when you're a designer brand because your bookings will far exceed what you're able to do, right? So once your bookings far exceed what you're able to do, and that's another way you can just, you know, to raise your price too. If you used to getting 2-3 bookings a week and handling them, and now you got 8 and you like, damn, I can't do 3 of these, it's time to raise your price because you're in demand. Your service is now in demand. So the way you do that same workload comfortably, you get back to that 3, you raise your price enough that if you did that 8 and you would have made, let's say just 8 grand, you make 8 grand off that 3 now. So I'm gonna force the cream of the crop clients that really want me to pay me what I would make if I had to work every single day, right? And because I'm in demand, I'll be able to do it, right? If you're not in demand, you're still getting them 3, and you're like, yo, I'm going up, that 3 gonna turn to 1 real quick. You know what I'm saying? So that's another thing. Another way you can judge it is you gotta keep grinding. You keep grinding, keep your head to the pavement. Keep learning, keep studying. I don't care what your craft is. Keep learning, keep studying, keep getting better. Invest in your craft. When the new stuff come out, everybody else gonna have the new stuff. If you still doing the old stuff, you might could get away with that if you a designer brand and people like your classic look or your classic feel or whatever it might be. That's why they go to you. But for most industries, you gotta step your game up. You got to reinvest in yourself, and you got to do something else. So in short, wherever your dollar amount is at now, this is to you, Zayna Breath.
You going to tell some in short at 15 minutes.
I couldn't have been going for 15 minutes.
Kai, I started as soon as you started talking.
I was going for 15 minutes.
15 minutes in short.
Damn. But anyway, in short for you, wherever you are now, look at those numbers. Before you decide to go up, evaluate what the value of service that you've been giving at that number is per your clients. You might even want to poll some people, right? Ask them straight up. And don't ask the people that love Zay. Ask the people that maybe worked with you one time, right? Send them a little email. I got an honest question for you. I'm thinking about, doing some things different with my business, possibly adding some services, possibly, raising my prices for certain services. I shot XYZ for you. I charge you this much. Honestly speaking, do you feel as though, let's say it was $500, do you feel as though for what I gave you, you would have paid $650 for that, right? Or do you feel as though for what I gave you, you should have paid less? Please respond and let me know why, right? And have a tone that's like, if you got to shoot me down, shoot me down.
Right.
But I'm trying to get better. Mm-hmm. Like my goal is to get better and to please more of my clients and things like that. And even that has a curve, because if you did do good service and they're thinking about coming back to you, some people are going to be like, well, I ain't going to tell her to raise her price because then I'm going to have to pay that price. You know what I'm saying? So that has a curve. But most people will at least be honest. They might say, I feel as though there was a better value there. You did what you said you was going to do or whatever. And that's the thing. Like I said earlier in that long ass 15 minutes, all you really got to do in any business is what you promise the customer. That's key. That's all you got to do, right? People talk about under-promising or over-promising and under-delivering, or under-promising and over-delivering. That's true to an extent.
Just do what you said you was going to do.
But just do what you said you was going to do. Just hit the nail on the head, and people will be comfortable, right?
So when you do the more, they blown away.
Exactly. That's what you chasing. You chasing, I'm selling you a coffee with a certain flavor in it. That's what I ordered. I'm going back to Dunkin'. Period. You don't got to give me free hash browns every time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just do what you said you was going to do, man. And on that 18-minute note, we out of here, man.
20 minutes later. Bye, y'all. That was an exclusive. Kyree Terrell, thanks for coming to this TED Talk.